video is covered by Faves.
Here we are again. Ages since I made a video, been busy, yada yada yada. Anyway, the Young Turks have been at it all over YouTube while I've been away. This one struck me as particularly heinous, so let's get into it.
Daniela Vargas is a 22-year-old undocumented resident of Jackson, Mississippi, who is currently being detained by ICE. This comes after she spoke out against the detention, also by ICE, of her brother and her father.
That's brilliant. So your dad and your brother get arrested because you've all entered a country illegally, and you think it's a good idea to speak out against it publicly and therefore tell everybody who you are. Brilliant.
So let's take a look at some video of Daniela.
Oh yes, let's. Because my favourite pastime is watching idiots do stupid things on the internet. That's why I watch you fuckers so much.
Today, my father and brother await deportation.
But moments later, 22-year-old Daniela Vargas was apparently targeted by ICE, getting pulled over after leaving the event with her friend.
That's even better than I thought. So she's there giving a news conference and the ICE agents are all sat round the TV going, "This silly cow, she's taking the piss out of us, man. We need to go and arrest her ass." So they drive down there and actually do it. Brilliant.
Two vehicles zooming up behind you and turning on lights like inside of their car, like undercover like vehicles, and them rushing out and just being so rough.
Oh no, someone broke the law and suffered the consequences. Quick, call somebody.
So the detentions of her father and brother happened on February 15th, and then she spoke out this past Wednesday, and following that, she was detained. A little bit more about Vargas's story. Vargas emigrated to the United States.
Wait, she emigrated? That would make her an immigrant. And she did it illegally? That would make her an illegal immigrant. Are you telling me that illegal immigrants and undocumented immigrants are the same fucking thing? Shit.
From Argentina more than 15 years ago, and was previously protected from deportation by Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. An Obama administration program offered temporary relief from deportation for younger immigrants brought to the United States by their parents.
Okay. I'm not sure why that's relevant. I mean, you said that she'd been there for 15 years, which means that she came 2002, 2001, sometime around then. And the Deferred Action Plan only started in 2012, and it has now ended. So it wasn't like she came to America expecting to be on this Deferred Action Plan. It didn't exist. Just saying.
So she does have an attorney. Her attorney's name is Abby Peterson, and Abby says, quote, "It could be retaliation. They had been reading about her in the news. They had seen her at this press conference. Maybe they didn't want to hear it anymore. Maybe I'm mistaken on that, but common sense would certainly imply that's what happened."
Or maybe they have targets to reach, and when idiots go on TV and make speeches in public, it's really easy to find them, and policemen like really easy things. And they just went and arrested somebody who was stupid enough to tell everybody that they were an illegal immigrant. Maybe that's what happened.
ICE has released a statement, and they have said, quote, "U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, took Daniela Vargas, 22, an unlawfully present Argentinian citizen, into custody March 1st during a targeted immigration enforcement action in Jackson, Mississippi." And then they concluded the statement. It goes on basically to say ICE does not conduct sweeps or raids that target aliens indiscriminately. And now the next step for Vargas is that she will be processed and face an immigration judge.
And probably be deported because she entered the country illegally.
Do you guys agree with what we're hearing from her attorney? Do you think that this is retaliation?
Of course they do. My God, have you seen who sat in the chairs next to you? They're really not going to be able to help themselves and drum this up into some massive crime against humanity.
I love the attorney who's like, this could be retaliation because she spoke out against the government and was instantly arrested for it. She's the kind of person who's like, so why are all these drops coming down from the sky? Well, it could be that it's raining.
Yeah.
And just while we're talking about this stuff, retaliation for what?
Like, that is what happened.
So you don't think the wording is strong enough from her attorney?
I mean, she's an attorney. She's obviously got some kind of approach that she's trying to take. She has a strategy, but...
Or maybe, as a lawyer, and therefore probably somebody who is fairly intelligent, and maybe somebody who doesn't want to be derided for just saying bullshit, not that that'll bother you lot, she knows there are other perfectly reasonable explanations. And, as I say, she doesn't want to look like a cunt.
Like, this seems very on the nose to me, a little too on the nose.
Yeah, let me go way, way further. They are begun to target their political opponents.
Of course they have, Cenk, because everybody knows that Donald Trump gets every move he makes from his own personally autographed copy of Mein fucking Kampf. And I'm pretty sure that the Trump administration does not consider some chick making speeches and whining about how her dad and her brother were arrested because they broke the law as a political opponent. Nobody would have ever heard of her had they not arrested her, and you lot made a big deal about it. That's not a political opponent. That's an idiot who deserved to be arrested for their own stupidity.
So, and they're not actually hiding it. If you listen to what Grace read you from the ICE statement, they say, we do not, here I'll quote again, ICE does not conduct sweeps or raids that target aliens indiscriminately. They say this was a part of a routine targeted enforcement operation.
Yes, Cenk, and they targeted her because she was up on stage telling everybody she was an illegal immigrant. And it's illegal to be an illegal immigrant. That's why the word illegal is involved in it. They didn't target her because she was some big threat to the Trump administration, you fucking idiots.
So they targeted her.
Yes, Cenk, and it still doesn't mean they were targeting political bloody enemies.
We didn't say that, they said that. And just think about it logically for a second. So you're telling me their ICE is like wandering around random states and they're like, which car can we pull over? Which car? I don't know, let's pull this one over and see what happens. Oh!
No, Cenk, because that would be a random sweep, and they also said they don't do those, you disingenuous fuckwit.
Oh, look at that. There's a person in the car who was just giving a political speech against the administration.
During which she identified herself as an illegal immigrant.
And she happens to be an undocumented immigrant.
Yeah.
What a break we got.
And
she didn't happen to be an undocumented immigrant. They knew she was an undocumented immigrant. She fucking told them she was an undocumented immigrant. So they went and arrested her. Why is that so difficult to understand?
Cenk, to that point, the detentions that she was speaking out against to her father and her brother was from a raid by ICE on their home. So that's as targeted as it can get. They went into the Vargas' home to apprehend her father and brother.
Right.
Right. So a law enforcement agency had information that a particular sort of criminal that they were looking for lived at a house. And they went there and arrested them. Oh my God! The fucking brown shirts are coming.
Like, they're saying we targeted her because she pissed us off.
No, they're not. And even if they were, so what? She's an illegal immigrant. She's not part of the electorate. Why should she get say in the policies and the way that America is run? She's not a citizen of America. I shouldn't get to tell America how it's been run. I live in England. She shouldn't get to tell America how it's run because she's supposed to live in Argentina.
It's
They're
pretty
saying
yeah,
it.
that, like there's no between the lines.
Do you think he knows his face looks like that when he's doing that condescending half rat-faced thing that he's doing there? If I looked like that, I wouldn't go on TV and pull that face. I just wouldn't.
Okay, so she's undocumented, and some of you out there might think, well, okay, well, she had it coming. She shouldn't have, when she was 7 years old and her parents were bringing her from Argentina, she should have been like, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be the adult here and say we shouldn't go without papers. Okay.
And Cenk corrects the biggest straw man ever seen in the history of the universe. Nobody's ever said that, Cenk. What people would say is, it's still not the Trump administration's fault that her parents broke the law and by default made her break the law. She still doesn't have a right to live there just because she wasn't old enough to know the difference when her parents decided for her that they were going to make their entire family criminals.
Okay. Or you think, I don't care that it wasn't her fault. I don't care that she didn't grow up in Argentina. She grew up here. And then in every other way, she's an American. I don't care.
She's in no way an American, Cenk. Because my father was serving in the forces, I grew up in Germany. Does that make me a German? I don't think it does it, Cenk? No more than the fact that she grew up in America makes her an American. Citizenship makes you a citizen.
She's undocumented, she's got to go. Okay, I hear you, I don't agree with you, but I understand, right? But what you can't say is that they're not targeting their opponents because they just told you they're targeting their opponents.
If by that you mean presumably all illegal immigrants are opposed to them deporting them and therefore are their opponents, then yes, that's exactly what happened. If you're making up some mental story where the Trump administration thinks this girl is some big opponent that's going to bring them down or something, or make them change their policy, then no, Cenk, nobody said it, and you can say that that's not what was happening.
So she was targeted because she was going around making speeches about how this is a bad policy proposal.
And one more time, just for luck, during which she identified herself as an illegal immigrant and therefore made herself a very easy target. Her speeches and what she said in them are irrelevant because nobody would have ever heard of her or cared. Do you know, I really wanted to make this video under 10 minutes so I could try out making some shorter videos, but Cenk Uygur just spews so much utter bollocks over and over again that it's impossible.
They didn't pick her out of thin air. Like they said themselves, it was not indiscriminate. It was to discriminate.
Look how pleased he is with himself that he managed to work discriminate into this conversation. Oh my God. Talk about scraping the barrel, Cenk.
It was to target her. So you make speeches against against the Trump administration, and if they got any reason, in this case she's undocumented, you're gone. They're going to kick you out of the country.
By that logic, Cenk, by the logic that you're using, if a murderer stands up and says, I'm a murderer and I'm against the Trump administration's stance on murder, he shouldn't be arrested because otherwise that's arresting your political enemies. Do you understand what you just said, Cenk? You moron.
Now, if you're over-the-top right-winger or a 15-year-old troll, you're probably giddy about that. Like, ha, 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 finally an authoritarian regime, right?
Straw man.
But for the rest of us, that is deeply, deeply disturbing and un-American.
Arresting criminals is deeply un-American, Cenk. Because I thought that you had, like, the biggest prison population per capita in the world, Cenk. It seems like arresting criminals is like a pastime in America.
So now they sent mixed messages on whether they're targeting just people who have committed felonies or misdemeanors or whatever. But now they're not. No, if you're undocumented.
The only reason I can't tell you the answer to that, Cenk, is because I don't know whether sneaking into the country without having any papers to do so is a felony or a misdemeanor. Because whichever it is, that's the standard, Cenk.
So that whole idea of rounding up 10, 11 million people, yeah, one at a time. But first they start with people who are their political opponents. And then they'll work to see, because now there's no standard anymore. It's not a felony, it's not a misdemeanor. They're saying if you're undocumented, that is by definition a crime.
Yes, Cenk, because it is a crime. It is illegal to enter a country without having authorization to do so. illegal crime.
So we're going to round you all up.
Just like the Nazis did to the Jews, right, Cenk? Because that's what you're trying to connotate with the Weasley language that you're using. You just won't actually say that he's a Nazi because even you aren't stupid enough to think that anybody would take you seriously after that sentence. So instead of just saying it, you just try to lead people there on their own, don't you, Cenk?
And by the way, so that's the undocumented immigrants. And again, I know some of you have no sympathy because, you think, oh, if they don't have papers, they're not humans like me. What?
Oh, you nasty fucking scumbag, Cenk. That's not what people think at all. They just think that they're not citizens of that country and therefore they're not entitled to enjoy the rights and privileges of the people of that country. That's all, Cenk. And they're right. Cenk, there are very specific economic reasons to limit immigration to any given country. If you have unfettered immigration to your country, what will happen is that your public healthcare systems will become overloaded and won't be able to cope with the extra demand because they're not able to expand quick enough. Your social housing schemes will become overloaded and you won't be able to house people who need to be housed. Your job market will become suppressed. Wages of the lower classes become stagnant and don't go anywhere because you can always get it done cheaper by an immigrant. That's what happens, Cenk. Do you know how I know? Because that's what's been happening in Great Britain for the last 10 years, Cenk.
Okay, we can disagree on that. What if you're a political opponent of Donald Trump and you broke some other law?
Then you should be held accountable, just like every other criminal should be held accountable. You don't get a free pass because you don't like the Trump administration.
And jaywalking, or you were speeding, or you had 2 beers instead of 1, or you name it, 1,000 other things.
Then you should be punished within the limits of the law, and you would be punished within the limits of the law. He's not going to be able to deport people for speeding or for jaywalking. And as far as having 2 beers instead of 1, if you're referring to people driving while drunk, then that might just get people killed.
Or you didn't pay your taxes quite exactly right. I mean, Donald Trump is one to complain, right? But
well, Cenk, I suggest you take the evidence that you undoubtedly have to back up your claims that Donald Trump broke the tax laws, and you have him prosecuted. You could get him impeached and thrown out of being the president for that. That's exactly what you want. Why don't you go and do that, Cenk? Oh, because you haven't got any evidence and you're just talking out of your arse.
Any violation, they've just signaled to you. If you're a political opponent, by the way, either on the left or the right, and there are plenty of opponents on the right for Donald Trump, we just told you we round up our opponents. And
where did you hear that in that statement, Cenk? Where did you hear it? It wasn't anywhere in there, was it, Cenk? You're talking out your arse some more.
I don't want you to get me wrong. I don't mean they're going to, if you were jaywalking or you broke any kind of minor law, they're going to throw you out of the country. They can't do that if you're a U.S. citizen.
Then why did you say it, Cenk? Why did you say it if that's not what you meant? What was the point of saying it if that's not what you meant? Because that's what you were trying to infer really anyway, wasn't it, Cenk?
They can't put you in jail. It's called selective enforcement.
Citation, please.
So if you're a Trump ally and you're jaywalking, you're fine. Nobody's going to bother you. But if you're a Trump opponent and you're undocumented, you're thrown out of the country.
So if you're somebody who commits a crime where the punishment is like, what, $100 fine or $200 fine, then you'll be fine about it. But if you commit a crime where the punishment is to be sent back to where you came from and kicked out of the country, then you should be treated the same as the guy that committed the jaywalking crime? I'm not sure. What the fuck are you saying?
If you're a Trump opponent and you have a misdemeanor, maybe as a Trump ally you wouldn't be prosecuted. As a Trump opponent, we're going to throw the book at you and try to get you in jail as much as possible.
Yeah, maybe, Cenk. But if you can't show one single instance of this actually happening, do you know what it means? It means you're just talking out your arse and making it up, Cenk. You're just taking one thing and inferring something else on top of it.
because we don't like people speaking out against us. Look at what we just did to that girl right there. She spoke out against us, and we arrested her immediately after the speech and threw her out of the country.
Honestly, every time I think that these people have reached just the pinnacle of just total bollocks that they can talk, they come out and they show me I was wrong every single fucking time.
What are you doing in a baseball bat? I can't get you. Why are you doing that?